Welcome to Free Conference. Please enter your access code or PIN followed by the pound sign. You will now enter the conference. Muted.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, Levi.
Hello, hello. Can anybody hear me? I'm showing that I am putting audio out.
Unmuted.
Can you hear me, Gabe?
Hey, Levi, yes, I can.
All right, thank you. Cool.
Okay.
I had to reload the page. I guess it just wasn't working the first time. I thought I heard Frank in here, but he might have bounced out. I posted a thing on Facebook. Hopefully somebody comes. Hopefully some new people come today.
Yeah, I'm going to resend the invite to let everybody know it already started.
I gotta take a second though. I gotta mute myself and take the next couple minutes to make sure my kids are in bed and stuff.
Okay, no problem.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. I have a lot of background noise from you, Gabe. So I guess if other people start to come in, then I'll put you on mute probably. But until then, we can just kind of chat and hang out like we did last time.
Okay, I'll just take my earpiece off because I think the sound is very sensitive with the mic. I think that's what it is.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So because I don't like to put the phone on my head too much, but let me see what I'll do it. I'll see what I can do, but we'll just wait and see more people coming.
Yeah, that's no problem. I think that we got like at least 4 or 5 minutes before we really should start the presentation if there's anybody in here for it.
Okay.
Frank here?
Hello. I just got here.
How's it going?
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Gabe.
Hey.
So, how's your last couple weeks been, Frank?
I've been busy. Work's picking up, so I've been...
Oh, that's great.
I know.
Great
it
news.
is. It's a kind of a double-edged sword, though,
Right. Less time for other things.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, I got through the first 3 chapters and stuff, and I was kind of trying to start coordinating with James about doing the PowerPoint. I don't know that we've been able to really come to. We haven't been able to coordinate anything yet, but I'll give him some time to work it into the schedule and stuff. I know everyone's busy. Everybody's busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I was busier earlier this summer when I was needing the work. It seemed like everybody was AWOL,
Yeah.
I had a lot of promises and stuff, but nothing came through. So I was just, cleaning up, organizing, selling off stuff. I sold off a bunch of. So I sold off a bunch of stuff I had that I really didn't need it anyway. I don't know why I had it.
Yeah. I've got some stuff laying around like that too.
Yeah, I still got some stuff for sale. I put a bunch of stuff on Craigslist. That's how I got rid of most of it, so it worked out pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I woke up the other day and was making myself breakfast, and my phone just wouldn't come back on.
Oh yeah, those one of those iPhones.
It's a G4, an LG G4.
Oh, okay.
And they have a notorious problem with just like doing this thing where they try and start and they just don't. They get stuck in the loop. And then the very next day, my power supply on my computer crapped out. So I don't know. They say that things happen in threes. I'm hoping that maybe that was number 3, and I just don't remember what the first one was. But I'm kind of like on my guard right now, like waiting for something to break down.
Yeah, these stupid phones.
That's technology.
I wish we didn't have to. I wish we didn't have to use them so much, you know.
Yeah, that's technology
and
for you.
I heard you say, Gabe. I heard you say like you don't like having the phone up to your head. Is that because radiation and stuff?
Yeah. I keep it away.
Yeah, I've heard about that too. I try not to, but it's hard.
Yeah.
I don't have the hands-free thing. I don't have the headset thing, so I use speakerphone a lot.
Yeah, I use the I use the wire earpiece. I don't use the Bluetooth. I use the wire earpiece. That's what I use.
Yeah. I want to say to anybody that's joining us right now, welcome to the PAC conference call, and we'll start getting into the nitty-gritty here in just a couple minutes. We like to try and wait for some people to slide in that might be a couple minutes late. So maybe about 5 after the hour, we're going to start doing the presentation.
Yeah.
And then we'll have like a little bit of a question and a Q&A type of thing. And at any time during the presentation, you can press *2 to raise your hand. And you can also press *2 again to lower your hand. And like I said, anytime during the presentation, if you hear something that you don't quite understand or you want to get a little bit more information on it, you can press *2, and then at the end, we like to have with like a little open discussion kind of going on. And I got Frank here as like my co-pilot, and recording as usual. All the recordings go up on YouTube. And I'll unmute Gabe again real quick so you can say what the YouTube is.
Unmuted.
Hey, Gabe, what's the YouTube that you use for all the calls?
Actually, it's not. It's a new channel, so I can't name it yet. For anyone that's listening, just find me on Facebook, Arch Gabe, and it will be on my wall tonight or sometime early tomorrow. So.
Okay. And so then you like have to. Do you label the videos and then so they could maybe find the calls by like a tagline that you put on there?
Yeah, I normally put PAC conference call and a date, so it'll be today's date.
Okay, that's good.
So.
Yeah, that's good. So if you type in PAC conference call on YouTube, then you'll probably see a list of all the recordings that we have that are there.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm pretty sure you find it. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I remember maybe about like 3 or 4 weeks ago we had a really good call. I felt like the presentation went really well and that we had a really good discussion after it all. And that was like one that I'd like to listen to again just to take notes again.
Yes.
That was the 5th, wasn't it?
September?
Yeah. That would have been. That wouldn't have. Last week was the 12th. I missed last week, but I listened to the recording.
Yeah, and then the previous week before that, I guess, would have been the 5th.
Yeah,
that was the 5th.
Yeah, it was the 5th, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody had made a suggestion. It was a fellow that is buying a TRA. Guy's name is Joe. He had made he made a suggestion, and on the intro call was to go over perhaps one word or 1 or 2 words, what the legal definition is, such as the difference between legal and lawful, or just pick something. I don't have anything off the cuff because I'm not really prepared for it today, but I ran that by LB. He thought it was a good idea because some people need to know what these definitions mean. Even though it goes over a lot of it in TRA, but a lot of it you have to kind of look those words up so you understand the differences between them. De jure, de facto, the difference between the two, legislative law and natural law, things like that.
Yeah, I was actually just now reading a little bit of the difference between legal and lawful. I just went to search engine and I've typed in legal versus lawful, and came up with some, obviously a list of different web pages and stuff. This one here seems pretty cool. I guess I can start reading through this a little bit, and then if it if it seems like it's on point, then and then we can get into the actual presentation and stuff. But here, real quick, it says it's crucial to define the difference between legal and lawful. The generic Constitution references genuine law. The present civil authorities in their courts use the word legal. Is there a difference in the meanings? The following is quoted from a dictionary of law in 1893. Lawful, in accordance with the law of the land, according to the law, permitted, sanctioned, or justified by law. Lawful property implies a thing comfortable or to or enjoyed by law. Okay, let me say that again. Lawful properly implies a thing conformable to or enjoyed by law. Sorry, I butchered that last sentence. Legal, a thing in the form or after the manner of law or binding by law. A writ or warrant issued by any court under color of law is a legal process, however effective. See legal. All right. So that's the definition of lawful. And actually, it gives you a contraposition, I guess, of what legal is right in that definition versus lawful. But anyway, so here is how legal is defined in this dictionary. It doesn't say which dictionary it is, but it's 1893. All right. Pertaining to the understanding, the exposition, the administration, the science, and the practice of law as the legal profession, legal advice, legal blanks, newspaper, implied or imputed in law, opposed to actual, and it seems like the sentence just drops off right there. Opposed to actual. That's how it ends. Anyway, the next part says, all right, what were you going to say, Frank?
I was just going to say that actual would be actual of, because you're explaining
like de jure versus de facto or something,
right? Because one is of by right, and one is of by force. De facto is by force, which is by force of man. It's man's will, and de jure is by natural right, and so that would sort of fill in that definition of lawful would be, like public law. There's just certain things you don't do, and it's a common practice, like maxims of law. It's a common understanding of people. You just don't do. There's certain things you just don't do, and that would be like public law, common law, lawful.
Yeah.
Legal is when they say
the simple section here on lawful, it just says, in accordance with the law of the land, according to the law, permitted, sanctioned, or justified by law. And
that would be like customs and usages of several thousand years of common law.
Right, exactly. Like maxims are developed as being a universally accepted truth. And, Anyway, right. So the rest of this little article here, it's not very long. It's about half a page. I'll go ahead and read the rest of this real quick. It says legal looks more to the letter and lawful to the spirit of the law. Legal is more appropriate for conformity to positive rules of law, lawful for accord with ethical principle. Legal imports rather that the forms of law are observed and that the proceeding is correct in method, that rules prescribed have been obeyed. Lawful, that the right is actual or actful. Lawful means that the right is actful in substance, that moral quality is secure. Legal is the antithesis of equitable and the equivalent of constructive. That's from Abbott's Law Dictionary. Legal matters, administrative, conform to and follow rules. They are equitable in nature and are implied rather than actual. A legal process can be defective in law. This accords with the previous discussions of legal fictions and color of law. To be legal, a matter does not have to follow law. Instead, it conforms to and follows the rules or form of law. This may help you understand why the federal and state rules of civil and criminal procedure are cited in every court petition so as to conform to legal requirements of the specific juristic persons named. Okay, then lawful matters are ethically enjoyed in the law of the land, the law of the people, and are actual in nature, not implied. This is why whatever true law was upheld by the organic constitution has no bearing or authority in the present-day legal courts. It is impossible for anyone in authority today to access or even take cognizance of true law, since authority is the law of necessity. That's an interesting sentence there. Therefore, it would appear that the meaning of the word legal is color of law, a term in Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, defined as the appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right, misuse of power possessed by virtue of state law, and made possible only because wrongdoer is clothed with authority of state, is action taken under color of law. That's very interesting. And I like the way that they put this here on here. This is a good little article here.
Yeah, I'd like you to get that link. I'd like to get that link from you before we end this.
I'll throw it up in the chat. Can you take it from the chat?
Yes.
All right.
That kind of relates to a lot of. Thank you. That kind of relates to a lot of the description of it and what TRA kind of explains that to you. And what you said was the different types of law form. In the hierarchy of law. I know you'll get into this in the presentation.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think that would be good to kind of fold in there when I do the more editing on the presentation, to put this little bit of a description and try and simplify it some, maybe with an analogy or something like that, so that we can kind of go over it a little bit quicker and read that whole thing. Anyway, so let me hang on real quick. I'm just going to pull up the presentation real quick. Got to dig it out of my computer. All right. So here we are. Greetings from PAC. All right. So what is PAC? PAC is People's Awareness Coalition. That's what it stands for. PAC, People's Awareness Coalition. Basically, people meaning everyone in America, awareness meaning political and constitutional understanding, and coalition meaning lawful nationals working together. So what's a national? It's somebody that declares allegiance to a nation, yes. So the mission statement, maybe we'll go over that one real quick, I guess. The People's Awareness Coalition discerns that vigilance and an understanding of the law are paramount to the preservation of liberty. As a result, the coalition commits to increasing Americans' awareness of the design legal fraud perpetrated against them and their countries, and resolves to instruct people of America in the appropriate historical facts and law. As opposed to, this is lawful knowledge as opposed to legal, I guess you could say. The ultimate goal of the coalition is to reestablish the American Union's lawful republican governmental system as set forth by the organic constitution. Coalition members are therefore patriotically motivated in support of liberty and firmly believe that wars and rebellions are the two most destructive diseases of society. Hence, the coalition resolves to accomplish its goals in a political and peaceful manner. This is probably the most important part of this whole mission statement and this entire, the entire function of what this group does. It's an administrative process, and it's totally peaceful, and we don't advocate for any sort of violence or uprising. Mainly, we're here because I think that everyone would agree that there are problems that we need to understand and that we need to try and overcome. And that's why we're here, because we want to find solutions. We want to talk about solutions. We want to work towards solutions. We want to help each other. And we want to work together in community with each other as individuals through free association, working together to correct a problem, to attain a goal. Basically, we understand that there's a huge problem. We'll get into what exactly is the problem in a little bit, but the most important thing is that we're here together to understand the problem, which basically reduces anxiety and allows for a better understanding by gaining knowledge. And everybody has heard the adage, knowledge is power. So here we are together here trying to gain power through knowledge. And that's basically what the goal is of People's Awareness Coalition, is to always work together, study, share findings, and share details on processes and stuff in order to correct a lot of different little mistakes that have happened along the way. So where do we begin? All right. So in order to, where do we begin? Well, we've all identified that there's a problem. I think that we can all agree that the problem is out of control federal government, out of bounds, outside of its intended function. If you understand the way that the Constitution is written, you'll understand that the Constitution has been under assault and is being subverted by the federal government, which the Constitution created the federal government. And so now now you have sort of a rebellion against its own creator. So in order to begin, as we go through this process or through this presentation, we're going to examine kind of a little bit more closely some definitions of some words that might be used in one way in modern speaking, but have a very specific meaning when it comes to the law. And it's very important to understand very acutely what each word really means, so that you can really understand some of maybe legal documents and articles and stuff that you might read along the way, and so you don't kind of get yourself wrapped up in something you don't fully understand. So one of the most important definitions that we'll talk about first is status. That's exactly what the group focuses on, to change the status of a person from that of a United States citizen, or as I think, say federal citizen. That's not really, I think, the right term to use. It's a United States citizen of the United States, because that's what it actually says in the law that we talk about, which, by the way, is the 14th Amendment. The book, The Red Amendment, is based on that. We'll get into that a little bit more. Anyway, so to rewind a little bit, we're going to go into the definition of status. So a status is the legal standing or position of a person in society. Okay, and so some examples would be a child or a parent, married or unmarried, the servant or the master, the CEO or the janitor, the living or dead. And these are all different examples of status, but the one that we want to focus on is citizenship status. Are you a citizen of the United States, or are you a citizen, or I should say a national, of a state? Are you a citizen of Canada, or are you a citizen of Zimbabwe? You can change this status, and we call that expatriation or repatriation. And I'm sure that people have heard about that, people doing that. One of the most famous expatriation lawyers in history was actually Mahatma Gandhi. He worked in South Africa to help basically free people from the oppressive government there in South Africa by having them leave the government, because that's the best way to take away power from the government, meaning as the government is made up of all the people and derives power from, the consent of those people being part of the government. The best way to, say, sap away the energy from what we perceive as being a maybe immoral, morally objectionable type of system would be to just leave the system. They can't tell you not to. So there you go, is a little bit about status. And in that explanation, we mentioned citizen a few times. Let's go into that a little bit now. So a citizen is a person who owes allegiance to a government and is presumably protected by it. That is taken from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. An interesting quote that is a very famous quote. It goes as follows: "Government of the people, by the people, and for the people." That was Abraham Lincoln at the Gettysburg Address. And this highlights kind of exactly what I was talking about a little bit just a minute ago, that the government is made up of the people. The government wouldn't exist if nobody had allegiance to it. It would be a fictitious theory written down on a piece of paper if there was no people that had allegiance to it, and if it didn't have lawful rights to any sort of territory. So essentially, governments are made up of people. So further on into that idea, we can say safely that the People's Awareness Coalition believes that citizens bear some responsibility for the actions of their government. After all, they are part of what constitutes the government. So by their contributions and acquiescence, they empower the systems that form. And whatever that system decides to do is reflected on to the citizens, and they will bear some of the moral responsibility for those actions. Taking this principle into account, we have determined that invoking the inherent right to remove oneself from an objectionable system is the single most effective way of disempowering it. So if you are a staunch abortion advocate, or I should say a staunch abortion dissenter, or somebody that's wholeheartedly against abortion, then you would probably have a problem with government taking tax money from you and then funding Planned Parenthood, which performs hundreds of thousands of abortions a year. That would be should be a big deal to anybody that is deeply religious. Say, for example, another example: government takes your money and builds bombs and goes and blows up a bunch of towns overseas that you've never been to, and you've never met any of those people, and they never did anything wrong to you, and you don't really understand why we seem to be meddling around over there anyway. You might have a problem with that, knowing that you are basically one of the sponsors of that action, so to speak. So moving on a little bit, the citizens, a group of citizens that declare their allegiance, or they have their primary allegiance with a government, they have empowered that governmental system. So we can go on now to the next. Definition here, which is power, actually. And what we mean by power is simply the ability to control. So a parent, for example, should have control over the child, not the child having power over the parent. It should be stated that there is a very, very well-known maxim of law that goes something like, the creation can never be more powerful than the creator. That is a very, universally held truth, I guess. That's that sort of idea. So again, the parent should have power over the child, not the child should have power over the parent. In this example I used, the creation should never have, because simply put, the states, all the many states got together and they created the federal Constitution. So in that way, the United States, in terms of the federal government, is a creation of the states. Okay? So keep that in mind as we move on. So we're talking about power. Legitimate power is the good kind, I guess you could say. Legitimate power comes from consent. So here we have a revealing statement that's taken from the Declaration of Independence, and it goes as follows. Governments derive their just power from the consent of the governed. It's very simple to understand. If you are part of a governmental system and you don't agree with that governmental system, then you shouldn't go along with it. If you do go along with it, then it's presumed that you do consent.
whatever your mind or heart may say, your actions need to follow that. Because if you don't remove yourself from it, then the legal systems will presume that you are going along with it, and rightfully so. So your actions need to actually align with your heart. Let me go real quick and I pulled up the definition of a maxim here. It's as defined by Google. I don't know if I really should trust this definition, but anyway, it says a short, pithy statement expressing a general truth or rule. This is a great example they use. Some that actions speak louder than words. That's exactly what I was just talking about. So you can go out and chant, you can go out and protest, you can go out and cry, you can go out and throw rocks and burn down buildings and stuff, and that's all. That's terrible things to do. You shouldn't do that stuff. But if your actions in terms of your citizenship status, that is your main action there. You have to remove yourself from it, in case you didn't know. So, moving on a little bit from power, simply put, legitimate power comes from consent. So, moving on a little bit from that, we have the order of nature. The order of nature basically is, you could say, the correct way that power is supposed to flow. The creation should never have power over the creator, or the creation should never be legitimately more powerful than the creator. The creator could decide that they no longer want to think for themselves, and then they want to make up some sort of an AI system or something to control their lives. And we see that happening now. And some people will probably go along with it, but we don't want to do that. More on the order of nature. Here's another legal maxim. Law regards the order of nature. That's taken from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. And basically, the order of nature, again, is technically defined as the physical universe considered as an orderly system subject to natural laws. So you can imagine that it's, things like parents raise their children, those children grow up, they respect their elders, they learn what they can, then they have their own children, and then the cycle continues. That sort of thing. That would be the order of nature. Natural sort of progression. So before the Constitution was written, in common law and ancient civilizations considered the following to be the true order of nature. They regarded that God was the almighty high power and the almighty sovereign, that ceded some power to individuals. Those individuals, through free association, form groups. You could also call them states. And then in our situation, the states got together for their own mutual benefit and protection in the international sense. The states got together and formed the federal government in order to arbitrate dispute so that it wasn't not always the case. Custom and usage can allow for a lot of abuses, and that's where legal versus lawful kind of comes into play. So what exactly did happen? What changed? What exactly happened to, trick people into voluntarily giving up their rights? This is where we really start to dig into the 14th Amendment itself. The 14th Amendment, again, is the subject of the book, The Red Amendment, which is written by L.D. Bork. And he is obviously the author of the Red Amendment and the founder of People's Awareness Coalition. The 14th Amendment, the complex language in the 14th Amendment, created for the first time a status called United States citizen or citizen of the United States. Prior to this, all individuals were members of their state, or they were citizens of their state. So that's very interesting because, as we know from previously in this presentation, that by declaring allegiance or by having primary allegiance to a government, that is what empowers that government. So if all the people in all the many states are now United States citizens instead of Virginians or Marylanders or Alabamans or whatever, if they don't have their primary allegiance to their state, then their state has that much less power and the United States government has that much more power. So basically, by that transition being made, the states have been disempowered and the federal government has taken complete control. This is exactly what happened in the Reconstruction Amendments, and the 14th Amendment is the primary fulcrum of this change. actually one of the more subversive and insidious parts of the 14th Amendment is actually the Section 4, where it talks about the public debt and how the public debt cannot be questioned. And then consequently, or subsequently, so to speak, later on in the chronology, we have the Federal Reserve System and then the Social Security Administration. Okay? All of these things work in concert together to accrue a massive debt and to make sure that the citizens of the United States cannot question that debt, that they have to be signatories to that debt and take on that debt personally. So the phrase in the law, privileges and immunities, is opposed to rights because the government can change, suspend, or ignore these attributes at any time. So in the 14th Amendment, let me pull it up real quick. 14th Amendment real quick. Let's see. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Right there, dual citizenship is created. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Right there, vaporize the 10th Amendment. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, or deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. So, where is the privileges? Okay, here we go. So it says, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. It doesn't make any mention in this section at all of rights. It doesn't make any section. It doesn't make any mention of rights actually anywhere, I think, in that law. So Section 1 is what basically, with 2 sentences, wipes out all the states, takes away all their power, gives all the power to the United States federal government. Then applies privileges and immunities to all those people, which sort of mirror and imitate de jure rights, actual rights. The important thing to understand is that privileges and immunities can be changed, taken away, suspended at any time for any reason that they see fit. This amendment ignores the order of nature, also known as government de jure, and replaces it with man's law, known as government de facto. So this is we see the difference here between legal and lawful. Okay, so a lawful government would be a de jure government, which would be conforming to the order of nature, where the federal government would not make a law like this that would say, we're going to impose citizenship in the form of United States citizenship status on everybody and make state citizenship secondary to that. That is when de facto government happens, because they wrote it down and they passed it, and then people followed it, and they didn't, do everything they could to stop it from happening. That was when de facto government took over. Okay, it's no longer de jure anymore. It's no longer of nature. It is now man's law. Christians will understand this as actually being a Luciferian or a satanic sort of thing, because that is the overthrow of nature, the overthrow of God's system with something because man perceives himself to be better than God. And that's exactly what we have right here. So what we have now is the new order. No longer the order of nature, it's the new order. It's the new world order, I guess. They would like to have a condition of world communism, and this is undeniable because it's admitted by those that push that can down the road. The powers that be, whoever you want to call them, the Illuminati or whatever you want to call it, they admit what they want to do. Karl Marx wrote down their intentions, and then lots of people have tried to push that that vision forward. World communism is the ultimate vision, but here we're going to focus on just what's going on here in the United States, and we'll talk about the new order of the United States, that being the federal government, being at the height of the top of the pyramid, or the top of the ladder, or the order of power, the flow of power. Okay, the federal government is the highest power of the land. They then cede some power to the groups or the states, and that can actually be proved by the fact that in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, it says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So how is the order of that sentence written, right? The sentence goes, citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So the state is the secondary thing. So the federal government is giving some little bit of power to the states, and then on down the line as individuals, and God is omitted from this order. This order is known as collectivism, where the group is always considered more important than the happiness and the well-being of the individual. And there are lots of different collectivist systems out there. Recognized are socialism and communism, and Lenin said it best when he said, socialism is just a way to get to communism. So you have communism as basically the ultimate end game goal there. And what we have here now is some sort of amalgamation of a bunch of different sort of governmental philosophies, but always sort of making some progress towards a more socialistic or, say, communistic governmental system. So just to real quick recap a little bit here, political power comes from groups of people that share the same status. This is why the states seem to have no power. All the people in the states are citizens of the United States, not of their states primarily. So that's the big difference there. What the People's Awareness Coalition aims to do is to bring power back into the states by bringing people back into the states, by bringing their allegiance into the states, by severing ties on an individual basis with the federal government, with the United States government, and reestablishing an allegiance to your state. That way, the federal government has that much less power, and the state has that much more power. That's the way that it was intended by the founders, and that's what we really aim to try and do. You see that state national, that's what we like to call the individuals that have gone through this process. Nationals of the states, state nationals, same thing. They understand and they stand on and understand unalienable rights. They understand what they are, they understand the order of nature, and they will act to protect their rights. That's the most important thing, because just knowing what it isn't really enough. You really have to sometimes stand up for yourself. Federal citizens, on the other hand, or citizens of the United States, actually, they stand on government-granted privileges, and they hope that they're not taken away, changed, or suspended for arbitrary reasons. And they often don't understand the law. They don't take the time to understand the law, and therefore they're just at the mercy of the system around them. We don't see this as being a very comfortable position. So what we want to do to fix it is to correct the situation by bringing the power back to the states as intended by the founders, by correcting your status to that of a state national. This means pledging allegiance to a state, thereby bringing political power back to the states and bringing the federal government back into its intended function. The People's Awareness Coalition is here to provide the remedy, but we need your help. And it has been the mission of PAC since 1998 to bring proper constitutional education and political awareness to all Americans. But in time, it was realized that most Americans are not quite ready, and thus PAC Alliance was formed. So a little bit about PAC Alliance is PAC Alliance is basically all of those people that understand the information, or they would like to understand the information better, and they want to help out with functions that this group is working on and various projects that we have going on, which actually there are numerous projects right now going on. And I think that all the people that we have that are really involved are kind of hacking away in different directions, so as to basically reconvene and share everything that we've been working on together. And a lot of people we've got people that are working on doing a more in-depth analysis of the book and doing some sort of user-friendly type of material to help guide people through the reading of the book. And we've got people that are compiling study curriculums and a sort of a buddy system that's going to be formulated. And we need help. And that's basically all the people that are willing to work on things, willing to learn, willing to do research, willing to come and be part of the group discussions and everything. Those are people that we would consider in the alliance, the PAC Alliance. People's Awareness Coalition is basically made up of people that have gone through the process and are now on the other side and are working kind of like Neo and Morpheus and Trinity to try and unlock people from out of the system and try and bring them into the real world. So PAC is looking for good people to move this vision forward. Those people who are looking to free America from its deception and assist those that truly want freedom. A little bit of information about what we do can be found on the website pacandlaw.us. There's been a bunch of papers that have been written, supplementary papers to the book, the Red Amendment. The book can be found at redamendment.net, or you can contact me via email or Facebook, and you can get a copy of the book, and I have them for $30. You can start your educational journey at pacandlaw.us with the assistance and consultation of PAC members at the Facebook group Official PAC Alliance. Again, you can find me on Facebook. I'm Levi Fishbone Charlton, and you can talk to numerous other people that are on there. And once you get in touch with one of us, then you'll eventually get in touch with all of us, I think. Even if you're not in a position to change your status, you can assist those that are, and you can volunteer your time to assist with different projects and know that you are contributing to a new, better future for all Americans. If you're ready to learn more, you can access the best information on the subject by getting a copy of the Red Amendment, again, for redamendment.net. And that concludes the introductory presentation there. And now we basically, now is the time. Anybody has any sort of question or anything, you can press *2 to raise your hand, and we can just kind of start with having an open discussion. And I guess Frank is probably still on the call here. Are you still there, Frank?
Yes.
All right. So there was a bunch of stuff there that we talked about, I guess, before I did the presentation, like the difference between legal and lawful, that I really would like to add in there. I think there's a couple of different places in there that it's really relevant as I went through the presentation.
Yes. You were talking about you're talking about the status that was created.
Yeah,
citizenship status.
Right. When de jure government got transformed into de facto government, and that was basically upon the writing and the enacting of the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, they created that legal status. That's a legal status. That's not a lawful status. Right.
It's not lawful.
The lawful status is that of the de jure, the state.
Birthright.
The birthright state, exactly.
Yeah. Were you born? You were not born in the federal government. That's a theoretical entity. It doesn't actually exist. in a physical plane.
It's illegal fiction, which is an assumption of fact made by a court as a basis for deciding a legal question, a situation contrived by the law to permit a court to dispose of a matter, though it need not be created improperly. That's from Beauvais Law Dictionary. It's an assumption of fact made by a court for deciding a legal question. Well, correcting your status is not necessarily it's step out of that legal fiction.
Right, and into a lawful status.
And into a lawful status, which puts you under the hierarchy of law. It puts you under a higher form of law. That's the thing, is they try to disguise this and dumb people down, and they don't teach them anything about law except just watch yourself, don't get tickets.
You better follow it and listen to everything the police tell you. You're going to get beat up, and it's your own fault.
Right. Well, and that's, I was going to say, that's the thing, is that there are certain common law, i.e. common sense, and particular things people don't apply. That particular people, they don't necessarily apply. I mean, good from bad. People know right from wrong. They just sometimes refuse to do it because they think they can get away with it. So therefore, they created this municipal law or private law to get you to obey, to keep you in line, because a lot of people are
irresponsible.
Irresponsible, yeah. They're always trying to get away with it.
Let me go on real quick. I wanted to talk about Section 4 here, because Section 4 is probably more important than most of the other sections there. Obviously, Section 1 is extremely important because that was what created the de facto system. But Section 4, this is why the Federal Reserve will never be audited, never be abolished, and they'll never be changed, and they'll never do anything about it. They'll always just dangle that carrot out there for you, like people like Ron Paul and stuff. They'll dangle that carrot out there for you so that you will, get enthusiastic and follow and vote and all that stuff and continue in the system. They help to maintain the system, actually. So anyway, Section 4 goes as follows. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including, that's legal, right, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States for any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave, but all such debts, obligations, and claims to be held illegal and void. So there, what we're hearing there is basically it's saying that if you are a United States citizen, you cannot question the validity of the debt. And it also says there for suppressing insurrection and rebellion. So the only way an insurrection or rebellion can happen is from within, from basically people that claim that status, but then want to deny the authority that the federal government would have over you then. So if you're a United States citizen and then you start to say, we don't believe in the public debt, we don't believe in this system, we think this system is bogus and we don't like this system, but you don't change that status, then you're technically in rebellion. And then, this section here, it says right there that neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss of emancipation of any slave. So it's basically, that's why the Federal Reserve, which basically holds the debt, and they take out the loans and they use the people as collateral, and they take out the loans and they use the Social Security number to catalog everybody like a earmark or like a cattle, they put a little tag on the ear of the cow. You know what I mean? That's your slave number. That's your Social Security number. Then they use you. They hold you up as collateral against the debt, and then they take out giant loans, And then these giant loans are used how? Well, they're used to spread democracy, so-called, across the land. They're used imperialistically for the United States to wage wars abroad on the behalf of the international bankers. The international bankers that basically have piled us with debt and have made it impossible for the citizens of the United States to question. So they wrote that in there knowing what they were going to do. It's very obvious. Because if you think about it, this law was passed in 1868. It only took about 2 generations, which is on average 25 years or 20 to 25 years or something. So 2 generations later, what we have, that's about 40 to 50 years later, the 1913 Federal Reserve Act is instituted, right? And then it only took 1 generation later for the Social Security Act. So that's 3 generations. You can bet that most of the people in 1868 that were alive in 1868 were dead by the time that 3rd generation came around and the Social Security Act was instituted. And that's what basically tied everybody in as collateral on the debt that was accruing from the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. So that means basically all the people that were born before 1968 or 1868, they were members of their states. Everybody born after that was United States citizen. It only took 3 generations to allow those people that were still de jure members of their states to die off naturally, and all the federal government had to do was keep its head down and not try to act too swiftly. They waited 3 generations to actually put the hammer down. And when they instituted the Social Security Administration, and then they started basically pushing debt as high as they could go, and then exponentially, if we were to look at a growth curve of the debt, we would see some fluctuation, but it would be kind of flatlined all the way up until about, I don't know, maybe like 1980 something. It would be kind of slowly creeping up, and then all of a sudden, boom, way up, way up, way up, and then under Obama, under Bush, whoa, way up. Under Obama, even faster. Now it's 20 trill. And I don't think anybody can even fathom how much that really is. $20 trillion. I mean, good Lord, you know. And you can't question that. If you're part of the system, if you're a United States citizen, you're not allowed to question that. You're tied to that, and it's insurmountable. $20 trillion. That would take so long to pay off. We would have to reduce the deficit. There would have to be an amazing surplus. And now the deficit is what it is. Sorry, what were you going to say, Frank?
I was going to say, Gabe posted this national debt clock ran out of space in New York City. I've got to mute myself because I've got background noise. But I wanted to just add to that. The payment of pensions and bounties for services, what they're talking about there is all the judges and prosecutors and government workers that retire that are getting that bounty, getting their bounties from their pensions. You know, they don't want to risk any of that, even if they know. That's why you notice if any of these whistleblowers, you know, make headlines, they soon disappear. Either that or they'll take their bounties away. They'll put them in prison. So they have ways of dealing with this, ways of quelling insurrections, and any expenses that it takes, you know, militarily or police powers, whatever they have to do to get it, they can get you as a 14th Amendment citizen. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's a good point to make. These judges and lawyers and you know, officers and everything of the courts, they're part of it all. And of course, they're not going to tell you what the truth is because I mean their neck is on the line too. They've kind of sold their soul, and they're not going to turn back. you know. So there you go. I mean, pensions and bounties, right? Like Frank said, the public debt cannot be questioned, and they're going to continue to jack that public debt up, and they're going to continue even. I don't care how great anybody thinks Trump is. I think that it's going to go exactly the same way. I mean, he might not be as anti-American as Obama was in wanting to literally weaken the economy and demoralize the people and debase our morals and stuff. I mean, he might not be that hardcore as Obama was, but rest assured, the debt will still increase. Federal Reserve will never be audited. They might talk about it. They might talk a good talk, but again, action speaks louder than words. And the Federal Reserve will never be audited. It's impossible to happen. They're never gonna. They might audit it, but it'll be fake. All the findings that they come out with will be fake. It'll be lies. They're never going to do a legitimate audit. They're never going to end the Fed. It's not going to happen. They can't do it. They're not allowed. Anybody that says that anything different doesn't understand or they're lying.
Well, yeah, just like right before 9/11, all of the money that disappeared, the trillions of dollars that disappeared.
Donald Rumsfeld says, yeah, we don't know what happened to this $2 or $3 trillion. I forget what the amount was. And then 9/11 happened the very next day. And then now it turns out it was more like $6 trillion. So, what's that going towards? Black projects, funding rebellions around the world to topple legitimate governments, whether we like those people or not. Whether we can say, this person or that person, no, they're bad because of X, Y, or Z. Well, is it really the place of government of the United States or the black project that we have? Is that moral? Is that something that we should do? Toppling regimes across the world to basically put in puppet governments that basically dance along to the song and the tune of the bankers. The international bankers. That's exactly what's going on right now. And anybody that basically remains as a part of this system is contributing to it. So in that way, and, we understand, like, this sounds like an attack, and I don't want to sound like I'm attacking anybody and looking down my nose at people for not knowing what I'm talking about maybe, or for not having heard about this before. But this is the reality that we live in right now. And everybody knows that I think it's something like 90% of the people in the United States, they know that the Federal Reserve is private and that the debt is bogus. And that there's got to be a way to get out from under this. Voting's not going to help. You've got to make a statement by taking your 2 feet and walking right out of the door. And being like, look, this is all a sham, and I'm out of here, and I'm not going to be part of this system anymore. I don't think that this debt is legitimate. I don't agree with what the government does with the money. Who knows what they do with the money? They just lose it, trillions. They just lose trillions. I mean, man, trillions of dollars. It's unfathomable how irresponsible that is. It's insane. And rest assured, that money is not going into the pockets, into the hands of good, moral people. It's going into the pockets and into the hands of the worst of the worst of the worst. Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, George Bush, Condoleezza Rice, Barack Obama, Valerie Jarrett, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
Hillary Clinton.
they want to make it. They make it sound like they're it's different parties, but if you want to boil it down, they're just two sides of the same coin. It's a controlled opposition because they all go to the same golf courses. They're all in the same country club. They're all hooked into the same thing, and then it's a stage act. It's like wrestling, professional wrestling. It's all an act. These guys don't hate each other. They go out drinking and partying after. It's the same with the politicians. one of the politicians you did leave out was Reagan, and I had just turned of voting age back then when he was voted in. I voted for him. I thought it was the right thing to do, and then I came to find out our national debt, I think it like tripled from the prior from Jimmy Carter's. Everybody thought Jimmy Carter was a bad guy, but he wasn't. He wasn't willing to play along as much with the powers that be. The one world government, the global.
Well, I think that Jimmy Carter was just another step along the way. I mean, they had to kind of still do things incrementally, and I mean, Jimmy Carter actually he kind of laid the groundwork for the inevitable, or for the housing crisis. He kind of like laid the foundation for that to happen.
Right. Well, he was no angel for sure.
Yeah.
But he
may not have known what he was doing. He could have been a useful idiot too.
That's true.
And he might have thought that he was doing a great job. And I think maybe that could be the case with a lot of these presidents. Maybe they go in there thinking they're going to go up there and make America great again, right? And then they find out, hey, this swamp is a little bit too deep. I don't know what I'm really doing. I think I'm in way over my head. Swamp creatures got me by the ankles. I'm drowning. You know what I mean? That's basically what's happened. And that's interesting you say. Jimmy Carter, the debt tripled from Jimmy Carter to Reagan. And then there was not really a whole lot of crazy increase in debt under Bill Clinton, as I understand. But then Bill Clinton actually did away with a lot of the stop blocks and the sort of the things that were protecting from an all-out crisis and a crash and stuff like Glass-Steagall and there's a couple other ones that aren't coming right to my coming right to my head. Yeah, NAFTA.
NAFTA, that was the other one.
And then Bush doubled, I think, the national debt. And then Obama, I think, close to tripled Bush's record. And then now, of course, we're at the, I think, maybe past the point of no return where, maybe the interest on the debt is just going to be way too much to deal with. I mean, $20 trillion. How could you ever come close to paying even just the interest on that? How are you ever going to pay that down? I mean, Gabe says in New York they can't even count the debt anymore. Print more Federal Reserve notes. Yeah, they're doing that now too. There's currency manipulation in progress right now. I think Iran and China are trying to print $100 bills, and they've made some very, very convincing fakes, and they're circulating them in mass. And there's only one way to know, and that is the texture of one of the letters. And I don't know which one of the letters it is, but there's like a sort of a texture, and it's raised a little bit, and you can tell. The only way they can tell is by this texture on the letter. And so I guess they're going to try and flood our, currency markets with fake $100 bills, and they're already printing billions of dollars, at least under Obama, the quantitative easing 1, 2, and 3 that he did, where they just printed and printed and printed and printed until their heart's content. And, I don't know. I mean, Gabe says people think Bitcoin will help. Well, shoot, Bitcoin, that only exists in the cyber world. I mean, you can't put Bitcoin up on top of a couple of posts and live under it, can you? You can't, you can't wrap yourself in Bitcoins and stay warm at night, can you?
Well, people think that it's something, that they're hiding from, to evade taxation.
No, they've already proven that they can manipulate that too.
Sure, and it's controlled opposition, and what they're doing is it's all planned. They want people to do that, so they're going to get used to a cashless society.
Yeah,
that's what that's all about.
I'm convinced that really, when it comes down to it, the old tried and true silver and gold and actual tangible goods and skills. Those are the things that are always going to be valuable.
That's what Nixon had. He played a part in there. He took us off the gold standard.
He took away the gold standard. So there you go. It's like this incremental thing that's been happening. Every single president has been part of it. It doesn't matter left or right. R or D, red or blue, doesn't matter at all. Jackass or elephant.
Well, and two, the way the system's supposed to work, the president doesn't write legislation. That's all done in Congress. But as we can see, that's all been
executive orders.
Right, and it's all been usurped via this United States Code, the one that talks about the totalitarian empire, Title 8, 1101, 37A, totalitarian party. You know, that's one thing LB was telling me the other day. You know, he read how many were pages of that U.S. Code back in the mid-'90s, and that's how he discovered. You know, that's why they call it a code. It's a U.S. code. You know, like
a code of conduct
or a secret code, and it cross-references. It'll have one Title 8, 1101, 37A, and then there's another C title, you know, it's sort of a reference, and you really got to be on top of it. And I don't think anybody has read that. I don't know anybody other than LB that's actually read the whole thing. So the way they've written it, you know, they got their lawyers in there writing all this stuff, and it's to trick you because most people aren't going to read it.
It's a maze. It's a maze of legalese. And they just make up all this legal nonsense. And it's not nonsense, though. I shouldn't even call it that. That's belittling it. It's actual deception. It's well thought out, well placed, masterfully executed, and you know, nobody's privy to it at all. Well, not nobody, but very few.
Well, it's all part of their plan of dumbing everybody down, you know, just like, you know, for the most part, Facebook and other social media, these smartphones, they've you know, I mean, do 12-year-old kids really need them? You know, my son and I, just something that we kind of do. I see people texting and driving, and I'll honk my horn. I don't care if they're in the lane next to me. I want to get their attention so that they'll pay attention to where they're driving. Well, this fella, we did that. He's driving. I say, hey, this guy's he's got an 8-inch lap, whatever you call it, telephone, but it's like a big screen telephone. And the guy's driving his car and he's texting. I said, honk at this jerk. So he honks at the guy, and the guy's looking around. He don't know who's honking. He's looking behind him, and then he slows down, and he speeds up and looks over at us. And I just look right at him, and he sways over and hits the curb. He grinds his wheels on the curb. We're just laughing at the guy, you know. But you know, what the point is that they don't, you know, it's nothing is more important than your status. So you got to check your status. You know, I got to see what this text message is about. Is it really that important? They're all distractions, and most of that stuff is meaningless. If the world were to end tomorrow, would it have meant anything? No.
Yeah.
And the point is that they control people via this law that nobody wants to know about. You know, everybody's been dumbed down with it. It's all right there. It's all in the Red Amendment. He's done a good job, just an excellent job of piecing it together. It's one of those kind of books that there was one fellow that he stated that he takes it everywhere with him, and it's second only to his Bible.
Yeah, I remember hearing that guy. Was he on one of the calls?
He was one of the calls back. It's been over a year. Over a year ago. Oh yeah. And he had some other issues he had to deal with, so he's kind of dropped out of the scene from PAC. But there's been quite a few people that I've heard that from, and most of the folks that are really serious about it, I'm finding more and more the deeper I get into this, they don't socialize on Facebook. They don't have no use for it because they see what it is, and for the most part, that's what it is. You know, people just want to, look at me, look at my car, look at my wife, look at this, look at that. You know, and so trying to disseminate PAC, you know, we have the forum, which is sort of kind of slow moving at this point, but I would think it's probably because everything's monitored, you know, all the CIA and, you know, this is a data mine is what it is, the whole internet. And, you know, I would think that just from my experience, PAC is probably the safest space on the internet to be if you want to be on a social network. And it's not really social. It's a forum, and it's a forum for education, and it's a forum for learning. Gabe says he uses Facebook to do what he can to maintain focus on what needs to be done. people have to be hungry for the truth. Yes, Gabe, they do. They have to want it. They have to want to seek it. And it's not an easy step for a lot of people, but the data that is contained in TRA breaks it down. It takes it bite by bite. You've heard the old saying, you don't eat an elephant in one sitting. You eat it one bite at a time. So that's what TRA is, and it takes a while for some folks to get through it. It took me a while. I'm going to admit it, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But once I did get through it, and once I was able to get it, and so that's why I'm here. I'm here to help. To help with PAC.
Yeah, and do you want to go over real quick some of the projects that we have going on, and then we can probably wrap it up soon after that. But I just wanted to let those that are on the call know some of the stuff we got going on. And real quick, one of the things that I'm going to be working on is the PowerPoint presentation, not just the one that we do here for the introductory calls. We're going to actually making a PowerPoint presentation for each of the chapters of the book, and then that will help hopefully to guide people through it easier, and so that it's not just so we'll sit there and get through it all.
Yeah, we're working on that project. We're also working on getting a permanent slot, internet radio, for disseminating the information. We've got a one coming up Friday on Nicholas Landholt's program. I'm not sure what the name of the program is. It's a radio broadcast. I guess he does it weekly. He's on the call right now. You can go ahead and raise your hand. Star 2, Nicholas, and we can edit you, and you can talk about that. Another project is we're creating a PAC handbook for the PAC Alliance, for people that want to, get with PAC and help PAC Alliance and want to learn more about what we do. And some of the other projects are the study tutoring for people that need help, and that's part of the different levels of what PAC is about. We've got right now, this is basically level 0, which is the introductory call, and where we get you to look into the TRA, the Red Amendment. And once you get the Red Amendment, you acquire the Red Amendment, you're at level 1. Level 1 is a self-study level, and we have the forum, the general forum on the internet, which is accessible to anybody. You don't even have to have TRA to get on the general forum. But once you get TRA, you become eligible to access the level 1 forum. And on the level 1 forum, there's a whole bunch of more related materials and suggested readings. And also the website. The website, we're working on getting the website somewhat upgraded to a little bit more user-friendly, but also we have one state national, actually, he's going through the process right now if he hasn't finished, and he suggested that we make a PAC app, because people are, it's to get their attention. So these are just a handful of the projects that we have going on, and there's only a handful of people working on them right now, so we could certainly use your help. I see you're unmuted, Nicholas.
Testing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear?
Yes.
The reason I ask is I'm using a new headset that my son bought me for my birthday, and I'm not used to it. It's a gaming headset, and I'm not a gamer, but I just plugged it in. I kind of read the directions, plugged it in, and I've been listening and hearing y'all well. I just want to make this first time. I mean, the mic doesn't really move. I mean, it goes up and down, but it doesn't. I can't get it right in front of my mouth. So as long as you can hear me, then that's good.
Yep.
Yes, the name of the show Friday is Christian Revolt, Long Overdue. And, it's every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to have, I guess, you, Frank, and LB the next 2 Fridays. And I'll talk offline with you, Frank, on some sensitive topics, I guess.
Right.
Hopefully we're planning for 2 shows. I'm just hoping that somebody doesn't cut us off after the first show, but I'll get more into that offline.
Sounds good. Yeah. That should be interesting.
But,
Gabe is going to post the information on that. He posted it last week on Facebook, and he's going to do it again, more than likely tonight or in the morning. And then that'll give anybody that's on Facebook, he goes by Arch Gabe, as in Archangel Gabriel.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He says he's going to repost it in a minute. But that would be a good one. And if you have any questions, you can call in. There's a call-in number. I don't know if there'll be time for a lot of that, because I'm sure that Nicholas is going to have a few questions for us as well. I just encourage you all to get on there. And if you're not, if you're not busy or you're not working, I guess that would be 4 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, I can at least listen in while I'm working and stuff, and then I can take breaks anytime I want if there's like a discussion going on.
Well, and that would be good too, because you are a state national. You're a Virginia state national, so I'm trying to encourage anybody that is state nationals, to call in, perhaps discuss whatever they've wanted to discuss, what they've been through, or maybe have a little bit of input on that. But
yeah,
I still have to get with LB as far as what our dialogue is going to be, what it's going to consist of. But pretty much we just kind of go with the flow. The last one we did. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that we want to get as much of the key info out in this first show, and that's what I want to talk about offline. But the most controversial, what the naysayers are saying, if there's case law, what kind of problems people have run into or may run into, those kind of things. And then, but yeah, we all can kind of discuss how you want to handle that. And then if nothing happens and we're able to have the show on the 29th, then, maybe we take more calls from actual state nationals or whatever.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, that sounds good. Shoot me an email or a text or something like that, Frank, once you get that stuff figured out, and then I'll try and make myself available. I think I'll be able to do that. I should be working at that time anyway, so I'll be right next to my, I'll be with my phone, and I can just kind of listen in and chime in whenever.
And just to let you know, there are 3 15-minute segments divided up by 5 minutes of station promos. So the first segment is 4 to 4:15. Second segment is 4:20 to 4:35, and then the last segment is 4:40 to the end of the show, which is 4:55, and all those times are Eastern.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, that's exciting. That's great. I'm glad to hear that there's more exposure, and this is a great opportunity. So I want to say thanks to Nicholas for that.
Well, as I say, I'm no Alex Jones, and I both, whether it's entertaining wise or hammy wise, I don't interrupt my guests every 30 seconds to hear myself talk and to show my audience how smart I am. Because I'm not smart. I let basically my guests run the show. I'm not a real talkative guy, so I'll just interrupt with a question maybe here or there, and interrupt when the breaks come up. But I like my guests to carry the show because they're the people who are the experts.
That sounds great. Yeah, that's good. Well, I gotta probably hop off of here. So, was there anything important that anybody wanted to add before we call it quits for tonight? Nope. All right. Well, on that note, I guess I'll say good night, and thanks to all of you for being here on the PAC introductory call. And I hope that you guys join Nicholas's show on Friday at 4. Eastern, was that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Friday at 4 Eastern. Try and find the link on Facebook that Gabe is going to be sharing. And if you don't have Gabe on there, then I guess try and contact Frank and get a link from him so we can all be there and listen to what's going on.
I could give out the call-in number now if y'all want.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's 410-848-9191.
Okay, and is that like sort of a thing you can call in and listen to the show and then raise your hand, kind of like how you did for this show tonight?
Right.
Okay.
No, it's you call in and then Dick or Jane will answer, and then you just say, I had a question.
Oh, I see. Okay, and then you listen to it on a different.
And you listen to it, and then you'll hear me say, we've got a caller. Go ahead, what's your question?
Okay. So is there a listen only? Is there? I guess if you go through the link, then that's like a listen only link, and then you can call in on the number.
No, well, the station is Liberty. I'll give you the website: LibertyWorksRadioNetwork.com. LibertyWorksRadioNetwork.com, and on the left-hand side of the home page, you'll see where you can click the on-air button and listen to the show.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that's
and then
good.
If you want, you can call in on your phone to ask questions. Now, the other issue that Frank and I haven't ironed out yet is the station actually only has 3 lines. So I'm going to be calling in on a line, and if we have 2 other people give the other 2 lines, then actually nobody can call in. They'll just get it.
Well, they could do.
I'm going to do a.
Frank could call in B and then call in on the conference. Like they could do conference and then call in on the single line. Yeah,
that's what we had talked about. So
yeah, we're going to do like a 3-way call.
Okay, cool.
Then that'll leave a line open for callers.
Gabe wants to say that he will like to call and record the show on Friday, or he will somehow record, I guess, over the LibertyWorksRadioNetwork.com or something, right?
I guess. Now, the shows, these aren't podcasts, so and just to let people know,
you might have to have a special program for that, Gabe. Just to let you know. Sorry to interrupt you, Nicholas.
Well, after the show, the station sends me a link to the show, and then I can send that out to anybody via email. It's a large
great. So they're recording it, and then you can.
They're recording it, and I download it to my computer, and I send it to whoever I want.
That would be helpful, Nicholas, and then we could have Gabe put it on his YouTube channel, which he seems to have a culmination of many recordings on there already. The 4 broadcasts that we did with on what was that other radio station? Revolution Radio. We did 4 shows on that, and actually we had one particular fellow that was he's been a state national since 2003, I believe, Bobby Lohman. He had some wonderful insight for us. There was a show number 3, I guess. The first half hour was Bobby, or the first hour was Bobby on there. So he's got that on his YouTube channel too.
Oh, he has all those on there?
Yeah, he was able to get those recordings. He cut out the commercials and just edited it out. So, yeah, he's got them all on his YouTube channel. You just go to Arch Gabe is his handle on Facebook, and so you can go there and check it out and friend Gabe, and you'll get all that all the links for that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
And one other, I was going to mention, the live show is, I say, Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern, but they rebroadcast the show on Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern and Monday morning at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, wonderful.
so people who miss it live can hear the rebroadcast at those two times.
That's awesome.
Yes,
this
it
is great. Very good, very good. All right. Well, I'm glad to have all you guys on the call tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off and say good night and God bless you all, and maybe I'll see you all on here next week.
Go. Godspeed.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Your line has been disconnected by the moderator. Goodbye.